Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the great unveiling. The Patriots 2025 schedule is out. We will get you all of those games. Phil Perry alongside. And Phil, we do know the first 5 games. Those have been confirmed. We're going to give you the full schedule just as soon as the Patriots get it out and confirmed as well. We've got it here in front of us, but we're going to just slow play it just for a second or two until we say, you know what, let's give it all because everybody's got it. First 4 games this season are going to be at home, opening with the Raiders. Then you're going to be in a sauna down in Miami, Phil. I don't travel anymore. So Phil's going to have a lot of back sweat trickling down in Miami at 1 p.m.
That's the only part that's sweating.
Then you're going to then the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers will be coming to town, one supposes. Finally, Carolina at home, 1 p.m. on Fox. Going to see a lot of 1 p.m. games. Counting them right now, you have 3 primetime games that we are seeing, and there's one following that up. The Carolina game leads into the Buffalo game. Phil, give me your thoughts on the first 4. We're going to get to that schedule fully in just a second.
Yeah, the first 4 to me is almost an ideal scenario, and the Patriots have tweeted it out now. So Raiders, at Dolphins, Steelers, Panthers. That's a tremendous first month. If you're Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots, you're trying to get this new regime started on the right foot. There are 3, I would say, eminently winnable games there, and you have a tough division opponent on the road. But, Tom, all of September, I would say Raiders, Steelers, Panthers, all 3 of those right now on paper, winnable, gives you a chance to have a nice little runway into your 2025 season if you're Mike Vrabel and his team.
I feel like the Steelers is less winnable than you think it is. Meanwhile, here is the full schedule.
They don't have a quarterback. Don't they need one of those?
Yeah, they have a Hall of Famer coming in soon. Here's your schedule. Thank you, Sarah Cordero. Let's roll through it one by one. 9-7. That's going to be a Sunday, 1 p.m. Raiders, as we mentioned, then the Dolphins and the Steelers, Panthers. This game I love. It's a great checkpoint. It's October 5th against the Bills at Buffalo. It's going to be a primetime game on Sunday Night Football. That'll be right here on NBC. And it's a good checkpoint for Mike Vrabel after those first 2 games where you're hoping for at least 2-2. Then that Bills game will kick off a troika of road games. Bills at Saints. Buy your tickets now. Get down there.
Tyler Shuck era.
The Tyler Shuck era. Following that up with another trip south. So you guys who really want to strap it on in early October, you go back-to-back New Orleans, Tennessee. You'll be in a body bag until Thanksgiving.
You got a preference there? Which one of those is the better trip? If you're booking a flight right now, what's your preference?
Titans.
Got it. I agree with you. I'm a Nashville guy, but I love New Orleans. We had a great time at the Super Bowl. Great time.
We did. Follow that up with 2. Browns, Falcons at home. Surprise, 1 p.m. Let's look at the first 8 games then, Phil. You can leave that up as long as you want, Sarah, too, because I don't think people need to see my colorful Collars and Company shirt. Not sponsored. Wouldn't mind it if it was. You know what? Let's roll through them all, actually, and then we'll get to the quadrants. At the Bucs and Baker Mayfield, loss. Then you got the Jets on a Thursday night football game. That's a short week. That's a Bucs game, by the way, that's on my birthday. I'm a Scorpio, the most passionate of all the signs. Then they're going to be at the Bengals.
Thank you.
That has been real good to them over there at the Bengals. Last year, high point for their season. Then Monday Night Football, you have, who's their quarterback?
It could be Jackson Dart.
It's the Dart May first conjugal visit. Then a bye week.
Gosh, I mean, Lord, we needed a bye as bad as the Patriots will in Week 14. We're already catching our breath here. Week 14, bye week.
Bye week. You know what? That's too late to travel. If we wanted to travel that week, you got young kids, you're probably not traveling. I could have gone someplace. No, it's too close to Christmas. Bills on the 14th, right after Danny's birthday. That's going to be at home at 1 p.m. At the Ravens, loss. At the Jets, win. Hosting the Dolphins, too cold, another win. So, Phil, as you leave that up there still, Sarah, is that okay? I like leaving it up there, Sarah.
Just roll with it. What do you got? What's your initial takeaway?
My initial takeaway is the first 4 games, 2-2, and then you have a checkpoint, and then goes right to the next 4. To me, is, I like to look at it in little quadrants.
I'm disappointed. I don't like you. Your pessimism is already, and not that we're rooting or we care, but to say that Steelers game is not winnable at home against quarterback TBD, even if it's Aaron Rodgers, to me, you're looking at a very realistic 3-1 opportunity if you're Mike Vrabel and the Patriots that launches you into a soft middle of the schedule, which we will get into. And yes, then it gets more difficult at the end. That's my gauntlet, is the last quadrant here. But those first 4 games, Josh McDaniels revenge game, Austin Hooper revenge game,
Jacoby Myers revenge
game. They're calling this the Hoyer Bowl, week 1. That to me, I don't know if you win that game, but you're hosting it, and you should. That's a good coach, and it's a better quarterback than they've had in recent years now in Geno Smith.
That's a win. They should win the football game.
You to be looking at the Raiders as an obvious win and the Steelers is questionable, dubious, my friend. But I like the opportunity here, Tom. This gives you a shot. This is not. It could have been Bengals. I know they just beat the Bengals week 1. Could have been
But
Ravens, Bengals, Bills in the first month of the season, and now you're uphill the rest of the way. This is a nice little start.
It's nice. It's a nice start, but you're hoping for 2-2.
No, you're not. You're hoping for 3-1.
2-2 would be 1/4 of all the games they've won in the last 2 years.
I didn't realize
combined.
you're such a big Aaron Rodgers fan.
He shredded them last year.
He's not even on the team.
Absolutely shredded them week 3 last year. Phil has up on NBCSportsBoston.com his 5 quick-hitting takeaways already. He got it done already.
Yes, sir.
And his first takeaway is home sweet home to start. As you might imagine, he loves it. Also, his second takeaway that you can see is Patriots get some primetime love. Taking a look at those primetime games, you have the Thursday night kickoff. Thursday night is at home against the Jets in Week 11. The Buffalo game that we mentioned earlier, Week 5, and then the Giants Monday Night Football, Week 13. So to me, I'm not thinking that that's really a great. They're not really sashaying across the runway.
You don't think this is
swiveling their hips?
This is not the league trying to show off Drake May
and show out
under the bright lights. Listen, it's an improvement though. They had one primetime game last year, Tom, because they had to. Every team has to do the Thursday night football thing.
Yes.
So they were forced into primetime last year. Now they have 3. To me, it is somewhat of an indication that yes, they're more of a take in year 2 after an impressive rookie season from Drake May. Now with a head coach, the guy's been coach of the year. They've made a lot of offseason additions that should make them a relatively competitive team relatively quickly, in my opinion. And so they're at least a more attractive ticket
100%
now than they were a year ago. And 3 primetime games versus 1 is reflective of that.
Stephon Diggs is on your team. You got Milton Williams, a high-profile free agent. You have a fleet of free agents. That's why I think that's such a good checkpoint game for America to look at what the Patriots look like post-Belichick, post-Mayo. I think it's more post-Belichick than Mayo because I think that's going to be looked at in some ways like a blip, just a tiny little ... and ellipsis. But you have a great observation, too, and it's the appealing young quarterback stretch for the Vrabel defense. And Phil points out that there's a period of time when the Patriots will see Tyler Shope, Cam Ward, ostensibly. This is from October 12th through, on down to my birthday. Tyler Shope, Cam Ward, Joe Flacco / Dylan Gabriel / Shadur Sanders, and then Michael Penix.
That's an amazing way to pronounce Michael Penix's last name, but I respect you for it. It's week 6 through week 9, and that to me is 3 rookies right in a row, potentially, and a second-year player who started 3 games last year and won 1 of them in Michael Penix. So you're getting Tyler Shuck, who's a second-round pick out of Louisville. He's got some traits. The guy's about 50 years old. Cam Ward, who's the number 1 overall pick. He's on a bad team. They had the number 1 overall pick for a reason down in Tennessee. You go to Cleveland. Who the hell's starting for them a quarterback, Tom? Is it Flacco maybe by that point still? I guess it could be.
And Phil, it's a quarterback league. People have pointed that out.
Yeah, but you'd welcome that. You'd also welcome Dylan Gabriel. You'd welcome Shador Sanders. You'd welcome Kenny Pickett. They have no quarterback. They're punting on this season. They're getting their quarterback next year with all that wheeling and dealing that they did in this year's draft. And then you have the Falcons, who I actually think across the board are probably a more talented team than the other three there. But you've got a young quarterback, and you're still not really sure who he is or what he is. So while I do think that's a great checkpoint game, that Sunday night game, Week 5 against the Bills, to me, you're kind of loading up on a soft middle part of your schedule there and some young quarterbacks. Think about that, Tom. If you're Christian Gonzalez, if you're Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, if Barmore's healthy enough to play, if you're Carlton Davis, if you're Christian Gonzalez, you're looking at that month of the season, Week 6 through 9, and you're seeing he wants to win the games. He's a team player, all that. You're seeing an opportunity for 3 or 4 picks over the course of a month, and you're padding your stats and you're padding your numbers and you're really establishing yourself as I might be the best corner in football right now. That's the kind of matchups you're getting in the middle of this schedule.
And you're going to see the rest of the secondary, Kyle Duggar, one believes. Who's the dude they said? Marcus Epps.
Marcus Epps is a free agent signing.
We've gone in depth, but I think that it's going to be fascinating to see who the safety opposite Duggar is. I've always thought that Peppers was team MVP 2 years running, 22 and 23. 24, certainly not what he was looking for.
You have to mention Craig Woodson in this conversation as well, Tom. I didn't even mention this in our rookie minicamps takeaways podcast that we did, Patriots Talk Pod. But just reaching out to some people with the team after that finished up. The 2 names I got in terms of most impressive players at Patriots rookie minicamp, Will Campbell, which you would expect, and Craig Woodson, the 4th-round pick out of Cal. They love his football IQ. They love his movement skills. So anyway, maybe Craig Woodson's out there mixing it up against these rookie quarterbacks.
And it's funny because that was someone who Bruce Feldman thought was one of the best picks in the draft as well. And both of us just going off what we know and what we can look at with analytics as backseat armchair. Phil much more comfortable in the armchair with the draft than I am because he goes deep on it. But he said, "Hey, are we okay on this Woodson signing?"
Yeah, I didn't love it. But
there are many people who think that it's a great move. Sarah, let's throw up the next 5. Many people, many of the most respected people. Can you throw up the next 4-ish, 5-ish? Because after we've gotten through the first 8, then you're going to have another swath of games in which the Patriots should be able to escape 2-2. At the Bucs, you got to figure they're going to be, I would say, a 6-point dog. Home against the Jets, they're a 4-point favorite because by then they've established themselves a bit.
Well, six points at Bucs is a little much for me. I've got them at
Do you gamble?
Through the first 9 weeks of the season.
You get 3 for being on the road.
I got them at 6-3. The 6-3 Patriots rolling into Tampa Bay, who's hovering around 500. They're not a 6-point dog.
Sunshine.com comes to need them.
They're a dog, but they're not a 6-point dog. Come on.
At the Bengals -7. And then hosting the Giants on a Monday night. That'll be a cauldron for Brian Daboll and company when they come up here. They're going to be +4, +4.5 by the time the money's done coming in on them. But again, that's another 2-2 at least stretch that you have to hope that you can go 2-2 in that. Is that a tough stretch?
So
Phil?
that's not their most difficult stretch, but it is sneaky tough, Tom, I would say, because you've got the quick at Tampa flight home, only 3 days to prepare for the Jets situation. It's a divisional game. The Jets, to me, are really talented outside that quarterback position. And if Justin Fields somehow figures it out, we know what he can do in terms of the damage done with his legs. So, that stretch is a tough one. At Tampa, and then even though it's at home, short week Jets, I'd have my focus on that one if I'm Mike Vrabel.
And it's interesting, too. If you remember last season, the Patriots opened with the Bengals, then they played Seattle. Could have won that game. Had some defensive breakdowns from some of their best players, allowing touchdowns. So they finished a 1-1, and then they had their short week, I believe, and they played Thursday against the Jets, correct? I believe that's how it broke down.
Okay,
Week 3
yes.
was the Jets.
Yep.
And they got absolutely demolished.
Shellacked.
By Aaron Rodgers, who just went to town on a defense that was easy to pick apart, plus a coaching staff that had only had 4 days to prepare and said, let's just roll that out there. What are the chances that Rodgers is going to do the same stuff that the other 2 teams weren't able to do or were able to do? Because it got worse in that second half against, was it Geno? for Seattle?
Yeah.
Yeah, Geno shredded them in the second half. I remember the stat, they were like 41 for 46 quarterbacks going. So, but that was bygone days. You hope for a better Thursday night preparation situation. Then we got the bye. I took a bye.
It's a ridiculously late bye again. It's the second year in a row they have the Week 14 bye. Such a slog to be able to get there and have your team somewhat managed. This is a team, Tom, that you and I have both said, play some meaningful football late in the year. That should be the expectation. I don't think either of us feel as though they're locks to make the playoffs. We're also not ruling it out. But if you're playing meaningful football in December, it gets harder when your bye week is Week 14 because you've got to try to manage your guys just to get there. Then you get the bye and you're feeling a little bit rested, but it's so late. It's really hard. We know the Patriots were undermanned and just not talented enough last year, but they came out of their bye Week 14, all kinds of people missing and people banged up, and they lost 3 in a row.
And the presumption was coming out of that bye that Gerard Mayo was going to be back for a second season, that the Patriots were in a position where they were encouraged, modestly encouraged by what had gone on, and then there were the performances, especially against San Diego, but also, was it Arizona? No, am I going back another game?
No, Arizona was post-bye, I believe.
Yeah,
Yep.
So Arizona and San Diego were demoralizing situations for the Patriots. But right there, though, you got 14 games in when you get to that bye. By then, you've beaten the Raiders, you've lost to the Dolphins, you've lost to the Steelers, you've beaten the Carolina Panthers, you're 2-2. Then you went and lost to Buffalo. And unfortunately, you lost to the Saints too, so you're 2-4. But you beat
Lost to the
Tennessee.
Saints?
Yeah. But then
This team's just not as good as I thought they were.
Then you beat Tennessee and you're 3-4. Then you beat Cleveland, you're 4-4. Then you beat Atlanta, you're 5-4. You lost to Tampa, you're 5-5. That's what the Patriots were in 2001 when they were able to steamroll. They were 5-5, but they saw something special.
Okay.
From Josh Dobbs that week. So
boy.
5-5 coming out of my birthday. 6-5 after the Jets. 6-6 after Cincy. They're 7-6 after that Giants game. I'm definitely missing a game.
No, you're not. That's 13 games,
okay, 13
and you're
games.
Week 14 bye. You're good.
7-6. Then you're 7-7 after Buffalo. You're 7-8 after Baltimore, but you're still in that.
You still got a shot at winning record still on the table.
Can they take care of business in those last 2 games against the Jets and the Dolphins? That's what it's going to come down to.
And that, my friends, is the most pessimistic look you could have.
All I
think
had
in
was
some ways
one
on the
loss.
roster.
All I had was one
on
shit.
paper. I'm just talking about let's try to look at this in terms of who would be favored. Who's going to be favored in that Week 1 game against the Raiders?
The Patriots are going to be favored by 4.
They sure are. Who's going to be favored when it's Aaron Rodgers, say he signs, with the Steelers at Gillette Stadium, and they're 1-1, and they're hosting the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers? The Steelers are going to be favored in that game?
1,000,000%, Phil. I don't know how much you gamble, but I gambled a lot back in the day.
How much did you watch Aaron Rodgers last year?
With the Jets. He was with the Jets. Remember, he was the Jets.
Correct.
Jets.
Yes, that's not answering the question.
Go ask Seattle. I'm going to ask Seattle about that. The old Jimmy Williams quote they used to use on The Big Show. Shut up, Sarah. No, thank you, Jeremy.
Canned laughter. That's what we need out of you. When is your birthday again, by the way?
November 9th.
I don't think we had referenced it yet. Okay.
Yep. So the record going into my birthday, 5-4, then they're 5-5. But they're favored against the Raiders, dogs in Miami, +5 going into Miami. They're home dogs against Pittsburgh. They're 5-point favorites against Carolina. They're 9-point dogs at Buffalo.
Carolina is going to be a better team this year than Pittsburgh. Just FYI. Carolina will be a better team this year than Pittsburgh.
So they could go 1-3. Thank you, Jeremy.
They could. And if they are, we're killing them. This is not the time. The time for low expectations has come and gone, sir.
Okay.
They are in the second year of a talented rookie quarterback with one of the most accomplished offensive coordinators of all time. Is he not?
He is.
Okay. A head coach of the year. It's not bold. It is what it is. How many rings does the guy have? How many yards do you need? How many points do you need in a career? A coach of the year at head coach, A defense that includes an all-pro corner, another tremendous by the numbers man-to-man corner on the outside in Carlton Davis, the highest paid player in the history of the franchise at defensive tackle, next to a player who should be excellent, who's been dealing with blood clots, and that's a situation. But it should be a very good defense with a very good defensive coaching staff.
And I'll keep going. You know what the hell? You're making a good point.
You're acting like it's the team from last year, and we got to get that out of our minds. We can't hold them to the same standard.
They had the worst pass rush in the National Football League. They were the worst at generating sacks. They had the worst protection in the National Football League. They had the worst wide receiver production. I'm making that up, but I'm presuming I'm right, in the National Football League.
I won't fight you there.
Okay, so
have they not? So it's not the same team, though. Is my point.
No, so
you're not willing to acknowledge.
You don't go from 32 in those categories, which are critical, to 5.
No.
Okay, they're going to go from 32
I'm not saying
to 25.
It's a 12-win team either.
Okay, but there's going to be some growing pains. So the first 4 weeks could be some, toddling around the room like a 13-month-old.
If they're toddling against the Panthers and the Steelers, I'm sounding the alarm. I'm sorry. Like, this isn't Bill Belichick era. Oh, we just use the first 4 weeks to kind of tool around and figure things out. Have it figured out. Be ready to go. Like, those are teams you should beat. That is a soft-ass first month of the season. It's a soft-ass middle of the schedule. It's the easiest schedule in the AFC based on – you want to go talk about teams from last year? It's the easiest schedule in the conference based on records from last year. You should clean up on 75% of the schedule. We haven't even talked about the toughest part of the schedule, which is the gauntlet. And I'm not putting it in air quotes because I'm being sarcastic. I do think it's a tough part of the schedule. It's those last 4 games.
It
Bills
extends
at home.
even a little bit, too, if you want to. For the hell of it, you make a good point. But it extends back to Cincinnati if you want to take it back that far.
You could.
So Thanksgiving on's kind of a little gauntlet. Thanksgiving, Cincy's 11-23. Then you get the Giants. That's a bye week.
Your birthday. Yep.
Then you have a bye week again. And then you go Buffalo, Baltimore, at the Jets. And then Miami.
That's tough. Tua still hasn't lost to the Patriots. So, I think we all look at the Dolphins. It's like, oh, their time is done. Like,
Mac Jones is better.
I guess we got to wait and see. But at Jets, divisional game, at Ravens, one of the best teams in football probably this coming year, and hosting the Bills. Now, you're coming off a bye there, so you should be at least somewhat fresh. You have 2 weeks to prepare. But that's the most difficult spot. I think they are going to be firmly in the mix for a playoff spot going into that bye, and it will be how they handle that last month of the season that will dictate whether or not they actually get in.
All right. Play a game with me, Phil.
Love to.
And if we have any comments out there from our YouTube audience, let us know. If you guys are all watching the Celtics, we'd like to be too. So we can't, but we will soon. And I hope Pritchard has gone off by now. Just let him bring the ball up. Just. Oh, it's at the half. Tied
at the half.
All right,
How about
thanks.
that?
Welcome into everybody.
How about that?
Welcome into everybody.
Right.
Whoa, that's freaky. Do an exercise with me, Phil. How many quarterbacks, presumptive starting quarterbacks for the opposition, is Drake May better than?
Okay.
Las Vegas and Geno Smith.
That's a really tough one right out of the gate. I'm going to say in his second year. Now, you're asking me when they match up, who is the better quarterback?
Yeah, not just on paper. Who's going to be better that day?
I think by the end of the year, Drake May will be better than Geno Smith. I'm not sure right out of the gates. I'll give it to the Raiders.
He just got the training wheels off.
I'll give it to the Raiders.
At Miami and Tua Tagovailoa?
I think Drake May is better than Tua Tagovailoa.
Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers.
Drake May.
Carolina and Bryce Young.
I'm going to give it to Drake May, although I think that one's relatively close based on what we saw from Young last year.
Josh Allen, skip on down. Mm-hmm. New Orleans, Tyler Shuck.
It's Shuck.
Right, that's what I said.
Like a cob of corn. Drake May.
Ear of corn. Next week, Cam Ward. He should be Drake May, right?
It's Drake May, yeah.
Yeah. Then you have Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns.
Drake May.
Dylan Gabriel and the Cleveland Browns.
Drake May.
Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns.
Drake May.
Brian Sipe and the Cleveland Browns. Atlanta the following week, Michael Penix.
Drake May.
I agree. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I think you got to go Mayfield.
Yeah, you got to go shake and bake. The Jets and Justin Fields. Phil and I both Justin Fields appreciators.
Yeah, I appreciate him, but I'm going Drake May.
Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow.
Burrow.
The Giants and Jackson Dart.
Drake May.
The Buffalo Bills. Baltimore Ravens. The Jets and Justin Fields. At that juncture,
Definitely Drake May.
Miami, the final week of the season.
I'm giving that one to Drake May, too. So that's 11 weeks they're going to have the better quarterback.
Thank you for keeping track.
Thank you, Jeremy. That's 11 weeks. By my count. I was just counting on my fingers like a small child. But that's how I think we were trying to be as fair. People might have a problem with the Tua one. You and I, neither of us are big-time Tua fans. I think even at this point, people in Miami probably not the biggest Tua fans. And he consistently beats the Patriots. You have to acknowledge that. But I think they're going to have the better quarterback most weeks, Tom. This is, again, the schedule, very nice.
Very nice.
Even when you're not even factoring in where these things are slotted, which we learned today. It's 7 years in a row that the easiest schedule in the AFC, the team in the AFC with the easiest schedule, 7 years in a row, has made the postseason. So you're coming off a last place season, and you're making the playoffs the next year.
Yeah, because the easiest schedule is generally, not always, generally going to belong to the team, because there's the parameters. There's only really 4 games up for grabs to get the lottery, where you're playing the last place team in your division. Everything else is preordained. We do have some comments, says Sarah Cordero. We'll roll those in as we go. I don't know if they can be typed up or you just read them. Wow, there it is! Phil, Tom, am I crazy to think the Patriots could be as high as a 5 seed? Wow! New England sports guy. Phil is right there with you. They could be a 5 seed. They could get a bye. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question.
Bye. You're making a mockery of a legitimate question.
So to be, there's 4 divisions.
Tom
so
still thinks that
they need to be the first wild card to do that.
Ben Brown's starting at center, and Kayshon Bouttie's getting 60 targets.
Hey, no one was a bigger believer in Chooks than I was last year.
Right, and then Chooks Okorafor starting at right tackle. Yes, thank you. That's what's going on in Tom's head as he's talking about the 2025 Patriots, and I just don't think it should be that. It shouldn't be, it should be Beethoven either. But it should be something in between.
All right, brings us to 2025. 2025 music, Jeremy. Do we have another question out there? Oh, stand by.
Thanks for getting me a coffee, by the way.
Phil, show up on time.
Who's in the studio first?
Nelson Lloyd. Tom, please explain why you feel that the Steelers isn't a winnable game. What's your final win-loss? Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you, Nelson.
I don't say it's not winnable, but I am stuck in 2024, Nelson. And I continue to look at a team, the Steelers, which plays stifling defense, is a hard-hitting, blood-and-guts style team that's well-coached by a tenured coach who's been around for a long time, being able to have his team prepared to take on a ne'er-do-well in the AFC. It's certainly winnable, but I think that the Steelers, certainly with Aaron Rodgers, as much as we watched him at times struggle, there were also games where he looked really capable, Patriots being one of them, when he absolutely shredded them. So, to me, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is a punchline yet.
He's also not on the team yet. Just want to point that out.
Okay, so Nelson, you're right. Since the quarterback position remains vacant, it should be a win. And what do I have them for a final record? That was a fun exercise. I had them at 5-5, coming off my birthday. 6-5, 6-6, 7-6, 7-7, 7-8, 8-8, and then Miami for the finale when they're 8-8, 9-8. They get their first win over Tua. It's a 9-8 club, Nelson. Thank you for checking in.
9-8, and that might be good enough to get to our last question. Might be good enough for a wild card spot, potentially.
No.
Has the ability to.
So you're not crazy to think they could be the 5th seed, New England sports guy? But it's going to take some doing. It's going to take some doing. Sarah, any more? Stand by.
I think there's a real chance it's 7-2 to start the season.
I got to think.
And I'm really, I feel like I'm down the middle on this thing. I feel like I have it pegged many years in terms of what they're capable of and what they're not. Raiders, Steelers, Panthers, Saints, Titans, Browns, Falcons. That's 9 games. 7 of those 9 incredibly winnable.
They won 3 games last year, and then the fourth game that they won was
keep
against
living
the
in
team
the
trying
past.
to lose.
Yeah, they won 5 games in 2001. Or sorry, in 2000. How many did they win in 2001?
Oh, that 2000,
teams improve.
Am I wrong? That
Teams
2000
improve,
team
don't
had
they?
that 2000 team had Willie McGinnis and Lawyer Malloy and Ty Law and just a litany of great players, future Hall of Fame players on it.
Yeah, well, you didn't know that at the time.
We have another comment. We're going to be wrapping this thing up soon. Joe Schmo, I don't know how you guys can be so optimistic. Hey, right, Joe? I think they've taken leaps in the right direction so far this offseason, but a lot to prove. Joe, thank you. They have taken leaps. I agree with that. But the leaps need to be followed by bounds. And they have yet to do that. They've taken leaps. They're going to go from being arguably anywhere between 29 and 32, and it's a razor-thin edge between those 29 and 32. I would imagine that they should probably be around 22, 23, 24 as the season begins. If you're doing a power ranking. Now, they should start to rocket up that at midseason. You're going to see them peak at 18 in the power rankings. But they're still going to slither in with that 9-8 record. Take a look at this again.
I just think that listen, 9-8 it's a possibility, and I haven't even done it yet. But if I got them at, I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to be somewhere in that range as well. I don't think people care to hear the win, loss, win.
Well, what are we doing?
Win, loss. Here's what I would say. If they struggle against this schedule, that's a problem. Can I say that? Because the time is now, Tom. You and I talk about urgency nonstop. The time is now to be good.
The timing of the struggle matters.
quarterback.
The timing of the struggle matters.
Okay.
It's how you close. And Gerard Mayo would still be the head coach here if the final 4 weeks had indicated that there was a capability to see light at the end of the tunnel and to think it would improve. So you could struggle in the first 4 games. You could be 1-3. You could go 1-3 and lose to Buffalo, and then you're at New Orleans and at Tennessee. You could be 1-6, mister. You want that?
That's what I'm saying. If you're 1-6, sound the alarm, because the point at which you should be struggling, the point at which you should be struggling based on this schedule is the end, not the beginning. You're factoring in this 2-2 under Bill Belichick to start the year stuff, and it doesn't have to be that way, is what I'm saying.
A team, really, generally speaking, as you know, I'm not telling you or anybody out there anything they don't know. The team that takes the field on September 7th isn't the team that is going to be playing on Halloween. Not even talking about injuries, but the identity of it, the chemistry of it, the way the coaching staff works together, the way other teams prepare for it. There is a world of difference between those two things. And I think that there will be an acclimation period. Now, the acclimation period might come from the rest of the league, Phil, and they might go 3-1 because teams won't know whether to shit or go blind when they see, oh my God, Drake May's he's on a guy wire up there. We don't know. McDaniels came up with something brand new. So they have all kinds of things that they just trot out of the bag, and teams are having a hard time reacting to them. Honestly, with May, I would give him as much as he can handle early in the season, but can guys go with him, I think will be the question. Who goes with him? Will Diggs be ready at the start of the season? Okay. Will Bourne be the player that he was 3 years ago when he saw Josh McDaniels? McDaniels still being high on him. So
they won basically 2 games at home the last 2 years combined. It's actually 3, but the third was a meaningless game in the season finale last year. They won 2 football games at home in 2 years. They should, in my opinion, certainly match that, if not exceed it, in the first month of the season.
They should clean house on their home schedule. Let's take one more comment, and then let's look at the home schedule. Will Lefebvre. The additions at wide receiver this offseason makes them a playoff team, especially if Diggs is good to go week 1. Good point by you. Coaching matters almost as much as talent. Yes, you're not wrong, Will, at all, because I think that whether or not Diggs is ready and whether or not he's full speed week 1, Tyler Hughes was a wide receivers coach who had not really been a wide receivers coach at any level, Phil, if I'm not mistaken. He had been an assistant wide receivers coach. He took over a professional football player's room. That would be NFL, Tom. He took over an NFL wide receiver room. And from that room, he had starting out with Jalen Reagor, Demario Douglas, Javon Baker, Jalen Polk. 3 of those guys thought that they were much better than they really are and still don't know how good they could be or not be. Bourne was hurt. Was he hurt at the beginning of last year?
Yes, he was. He didn't play for months.
So stop revisiting last year, Tom. You're right, Will. When you look at the wide receiver room and the increased coaching that they're going to get from Todd Downing, additionally, kind of the iron fist, I think, rule that they're going to experience from Josh McDaniels, and hopefully an emboldened Drake May, who will put the screws to guys. Look, I remember talking at the end of last season to one of the players in the offense, and I said, how come Drake can't really change things at the line of scrimmage? Does he not have the answers? He goes, oh, we got the answers. It's really hard if you don't know where the other guys are going to be, so we can only run what we can run. And I think the intimation there was the wide receivers are really, again, that's an intimation. He didn't say that. The intimation was you can't rely on guys to be in the right spots, so we can only run these things. We can't change stuff at the line of scrimmage. I think this coming year, you're not just going to have McDaniels and hopefully May putting the screws to guys and friggin' Moses.
Morgan Moses.
Brown.
Morgan Moses.
Moses Brown. That's a friggin' high school in Rhode Island. Guys will have the screws put to them by Todd Downing as well, and by the tight ends, Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper. The expectation level should rise. So, yeah, the wideout should be a lot better.
I think some of that stuff is just not going to be acceptable this year in a way that it was last year. And you kind of understand why some of that stuff was acceptable last year. That was you called it a mulligan year. I think it was a great term for it. It was a time to sort of rebuild, reset, teach young players, get young players on the field in the hopes of setting them up for 2025 and beyond. Last year was never supposed to be a competitive season. I think they almost handled it too explicitly that way, and it trickled down into the locker room. They let go of the rope, and it became a mess. I can't see Josh McDaniels being okay with, hey, you know what, Jalen? It's okay, man. Hey, pat on the top of the helmet, because every once in a while we're all going to jump off sides. Yeah. And Kayshawn, I know you didn't run the right route, but that's okay. He ain't going to do that. Mike Vrabel's not going to be okay with that, in my opinion. So I think there is going to be more urgency to be good and good almost right away. Understanding that they're still not there yet. They shouldn't be contending for a Super Bowl, nothing like that. But the standards have to be elevated. And just while you were talking there, I did get to, funny enough, based on all of our disagreement about the first month of the season, I have them at 9-8 also. I have them at 8-5 going into the bye, and then I think they'll lose to Buffalo, and my guess is they would split that Jets-Dolphins finale stretch. So basically the same look that you have, that I have, that even the people out there, it sounds like.
And that's unexpected. They're going to lose one of those games. They're going to lose to Carolina or New Orleans or Cleveland or Atlanta. They're going to.
I have them losing. I had them losing a stunner to Atlanta at home, but they were 6-2 going into that week.
It's going to be quiet walking out of that stadium.
That's one of those where you go.
It's a week before my birthday.
That's the week before Tom's birthday, and you're going home. And not only are you thinking about what you're getting for Tom for his birthday,
Jeremy found the crickets button.
but you think now you're reassessing everything. Now that was. Mid-season, I thought we were 6-2. We were the 2 seed in the AFC, and we just lost to Michael, a guy that Tom Curran back in May was calling Phoenix. That's not a good sign. So, yeah, there will be games like that in there. I'm acknowledging that. I am and what you say is right. It takes a team time to come together and eventually become what they are to become. I just don't have as much respect for some of those teams early in the schedule, and I think I have more respect for the Patriots roster, their quarterback, and their coaching staff, maybe than some others will, because I'm expecting them to be very good out of the chutes.
All right, one final comment, then we're going to dismount so we can watch the Celtics. Here's that comment.
Bang.
Jason Kelly watching in from Australia. Great breakdown, boys. 10 wins. Very realistic. Don't disagree with you. For both of you, what is your optimism that Drake takes another step this year? Phil first. Thanks, Jason.
Significant. It should be. Especially because of the pairing with the coordinator that he's getting this year. in my opinion. Josh McDaniels is a proven developer of young quarterbacks. What he did with Mac Jones now, Tom, looking back on it, I think it only becomes more impressive with every passing year based on what we know the Patriots didn't have offensively and based on what we now see Mac Jones has become. And again, I don't think a lot of that is necessarily his fault, although, like, it's time for him to, turn it around. It was one crazy, rocky, brutal, stupid year in 2023. But I think McDaniels and May together, I think, has the potential to be very, very good.
It's funny because what ails Mac Jones and has ailed Mac Jones is one concern I have about Drake May to a different extent. It's decision-making, down the field, risk-taking, presumption of openness, being careless with the ball, and trying to put it into places. Fix that, you're a Pro Bowler this year. And the reason I say that is late in games last year when they had opportunities to come back, opportunities to progress down the field, too early in it, he was taking threes to mix sports. He was taking useless threes with 15 seconds left on the shot clock and nobody underneath. Just progress down the field. And those picks were bothering me. But again, that's a byproduct of being on a shit team where the whole team's revolving around you at the age of 21.
And you got to do something. I didn't hate it because it was his rookie year, and I do find it infuriating to watch somebody like Aaron Rodgers over the course of his career, one of the most statistically efficient quarterbacks of all time, hated throwing interceptions to the point where he could not throw his team back into games. The Packers did not win enough with Aaron Rodgers there. They won one Super Bowl. He's one of the most talented players we've ever seen at that position. And it was because, I think, personally, he cared too much about his stats. And he cared too much about not throwing a turnover. Sometimes you do have to squeeze it into a spot to try and go freaking win the game. You can't just sit there all the time. Again, Bill Belichick has drilled it into everybody's brains, and Tom Brady was the best of all time, and so he made it work. But boy, it's a tough way to go through life just hoping the other team's going to screw up. That, to me, is not a feasible plan long term.
Eli Manning has 2 Super Bowl rings because he was one of the great. I'll say this. He was one of the great gamblers of the last 25 years, maybe the Super Bowl era at the quarterback position.
So there's a balance there. That's all.
Feel it. Yep.
You do have to take care of the football. There's no question about it, and you have to know when to take those chances. And I think I hope for everyone out there who's watching and their happiness in the fall depends on this, I hope he allows him to be that wild stallion sometimes that he is from a talent standpoint. Because he's not Jimmy Garoppolo. He's not Brian Hoyer. He doesn't have to play that way, right? The way that we love Brian Hoyer. It's not a slight against Brian Hoyer.
I know.
But the talent is what it is, right? So, like, allow him to try to do that's what I'm maybe most interested in, is how does McDaniels mesh his style and his offense with that which Drake May does well and has the ability to do really well, which is go off script and make those sort of no, yes types of plays that I think he's capable of.
And will Josh be able to, at his age, with his experience and the people he's played with, be able to give him enough slack to still be himself and not think the game? Because he's a field player. I remember I asked him during training camp last year before he had the starting job, and he kind of said, well, I'm a gunslinger. I like to sling it. Well, Patriots for 25 years were not a team that embraced gunslingers until they got really friggin' good. Ladies and gentlemen, for Phil Perry, I'm Tom Curran. We had an unbelievable time. I hope you have an unbelievable time, too. This was the scheduled release party. The Great Unveiling 2025. Thumb, Phil.
Oh.
Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast.